Alrighty, well, that was the season finale of Vikings. It's unfortunate that there aren't more episodes this season, but hey, the fact that the History Channel even greenlit this series in the first place is is pretty impressive. But how rare is it in this day and age that a season finale to a TV show actually leaves you satisfied with an immensely gratifying conclusion? No cliffhanger, or at least not one that deliberately leaves out the ending to a current situation that the characters are in. Everything in the season is wrapped up, and wow, was this good. All your questions are answered, all the plot lines are tied up. It doesn't really leave any open plot lines, or at least none that require immediate attention this season. They could easily be saved for next season. So again, wow, was this a great finale. This finale gives you exactly what you want to see. It's all the characters who I wanted to live did live, and the characters who I wanted to die did die. I'm gonna try not to spoil anything because honestly, you have to see this finale. The pacing was great, the acting was great, the suspense was great, the twist was great. And man, that last scene, wow. Honestly, it was more satisfying to me than when Joffrey got poisoned on Game of Thrones. So that should put it into perspective. So, what works about this episode? Well, the plot revolves around, at first glance, it's kind of the aftermath of the raid on Wessex, where the Vikings return to Kattegat, and they try and reassimilate into their Viking society. They celebrate, and they make plans for the future. However, there is still bad blood between certain members of the Vikings, namely King Horik, and him feeling that he should be superior to Ragnar because, after all, he is a king and Ragnar is just an earl. So, this paves the way for an episode that constantly leads you one way and then immediately pulls the rug out from under you at the end of the episode. And it actually improved some of the problems I had with previous episodes in that it provides a pretty good explanation for them. Floki supposedly switching sides. That is explained here. I was continuing to question, okay, how did Floki come this far that he would be willing to go to these lengths to please King Horik? Well, it's explained. Why is Floki sending his wife and newborn daughter away from Kattegat in this episode? It's explained. Why do we barely see Ragnar in this episode? Or why do we barely have any scenes with Ragnar? Why do we never actually hear what he's planning, what his plans are? It's explained. It benefits the twist. So, I hope I'm not giving too much away, but like I said, this episode very nearly perfectly sets up this misdirection for again a very gratifying conclusion. This is a conclusion that I have been waiting for all season, and I actually wish more TV shows would try to emulate this kind of satisfying conclusion. Once in a while, TV shows, a lot of the time nowadays, they feel the need to end their season with some kind of bittersweet sequel hook. Like, oh, things look bad, so we'll just end the season here, and that'll guarantee people will keep watching. that pisses people off. And I know they've been doing it for a while, but like I said, it's refreshing to see something that breaks the mold, because honestly, as clever as the writers of other shows may think that is, that type of ending has become almost cliched in its own right nowadays. So, in all honesty, in going back to a traditional ending, Vikings is actually breaking the mold by going back to what was previously considered the mold. So, really got to applaud the script for this episode, and I really got to applaud the very suspenseful way in which this particular one was directed. And as always, I have to admire the performances. I can't really think of a bad performance here. Travis Fimmel, Clive Standen, Gustav Skarsgård, Jessalyn Gilsig, Catherine Winnick. She still remains one of the best characters on the show. I'm really liking these characters. I mean, every time I see these characters, I like them more and more. George Blagden as Athelstan. Unfortunately, Linus Roche wasn't in this one. King Egbert he wasn't really brought into the storyline, but I'm sure he'll be back next season or sometime in the future. Yeah, Donald Logue. Every single one of these guys, Alexander Ludwig, every single one of these guys does a really good job. They now fit these characters very comfortably. You can easily tell that they've had plenty of time to really come to terms with what their characters' motivations are and what their characters' personalities are, to the point where it's, you can clearly tell that playing these characters is almost second nature to them. So, really have to admire the very natural acting. I mean, the acting has gotten very natural at this point. It flows a lot better. The chemistry still remains very strong. The action scenes are still very, very good, very visceral, very real. And even though the History Channel is not strictly allowed, it doesn't really show the type of material that something like HBO shows. The fighting still feels pretty brutal. I mean, the blood is there. You just don't see it in. You don't see nearly the amount of blood as you see in something like Game of Thrones. So, yeah, the action scenes are still pretty good. They're filmed very competently. No shaky cam. The set design is still fantastic, and that's actually something that I've been forgetting to bring up. The set design, and the locations are still gorgeous. Man, I am so impressed by how good this show looks. Man, more movies need to take hints from this show. Build sets again. I mean, these sets are like Hammer horror level good. To where the actors, yeah, obviously they're giving performances out of their own acting ability, but I think what definitely helps is the fact that they have these environments to interact with. They have these environments to create the appropriate Viking atmosphere. So I really have to give props to the design team and whoever else was responsible in building these sets and scouting these locations. Very, very authentic looking. And yeah, not really too much I have a problem with in this finale, because the things that I was having a problem with during the episode, like the characterization of Floki, it all comes back around. It's all explained in the twist ending. And I'm trying hard not to spoil it, but all of my frustration, it turns out, all of the frustrating development of Floki's turn to the dark side, as it were, and all of the elements of of King Horik supposedly scheming against Ragnar. It all comes back around, again, in a very, very viscerally satisfying way. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. It's easily one of the best of the season. And overall, Vikings Season 2 I thought was pretty superior to Season 1. I mean, the one common complaint I heard about Season 1 is that the pacing was slow. It it was kind of slow at times, or a lot of the time it was kind of slow, but thankfully the characters in the world were interesting enough to keep me watching. Here, the pacing has been almost completely fixed. Lines have been drawn in the sand this season. Things will never be the same. New lands have been explored, and overall, this season was definitely more adventurous than Season 1 and more satisfying than Season 1. I am really loving this show now. I'm so irritated that we have to wait another year, 2015, to see to see another season of Vikings, because this, like I said, these seasons are way too short. 10 episodes, and I think Season 1 was actually 9 episodes, but 9 or 10 episodes is way too short for a show this interesting. Especially since there are commercials. Game of Thrones at least has the excuse that, oh, we don't have commercials, so there's a lot more time that you get to spend in Game of Thrones world as opposed to Vikings world. In the regular hour block, because HBO or Game of Thrones doesn't have to worry about making time for commercials. Vikings has like 20 or almost 20 minutes of commercials, which pisses me off. But again, great series, great ending to a great season. And yeah, like always, I recommend people watch this show. It's honestly a very satisfying and very interesting, very dramatically interesting love letter to Viking culture. I mean, it treats this material very seriously. No one's winking at the camera going, haha, we're Vikings, ah. No, they play this surprisingly straight. And honestly, Michael Hurst, I'm ashamed that I've never actually seen any of his work before. I might actually have to go back and watch some of his works now, but yeah, great show. Vikings. Watch it. Odin commands you.